first of all, thank you. Hey, all great presentations. Let me say that. Great presentations. And I think the audience is appreciating that. I'll come in here interjecting because there is a poll that we would like you to, the audience, to fill in. Now, I understand that you can see that on the screen. I can see it on my screen. So if you could take 1 minute, audience, to complete that form, the poll form, the polling form, then we would certainly appreciate it. So that's great. So now, as far as the next bit is concerned, the Q&A session. So Tom, if you can press on with that, and we shall carry on until at least, well, our time, 1600 hours Turkish time. So I will say a few things after that, and there we are. So I think the content this morning's been great. The questions thus far answered very well, and great presenters. I am so happy.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Thank you, all the presenters and panelists. I have some general questions that I prepared. I think it applies to everybody in the panel. Recently, as we're all aware, there's been a big reshifting of C-band spectrum, what they call mid-band spectrum, from satellite to 5G. In the US, FCC moved about 300 megahertz and leaving only 200 megahertz of standard C left for satellites. And they recently announced that they're going to move 500 megahertz from 12.25 to 12.75, which had been traditionally allocated for KU band. So, you know, at least in the other regions, KU band downlink, that frequency might be used for uplink. So I believe, you know, the trend of moving satellite spectrum away from space to terrestrial is going to continue. If you see the mid-band auction, it generated $80 billion for the Treasury. And mobile operators who are generating income, a lot more income, they get much more, I believe, utility out of the mobile spectrum being used, you know, in tiny little microcells compared to satellites. They have much more income potential. So I think this trend is not going to stop. It's going to continue. So how does your respective organizations manage your potential loss of spectrum in terms of planning your frequencies for your next set of satellites or constellations? I know this is not an easy question to answer, but if somebody would like to take that on, we'd be delighted to hear it.
Well, I'll just make an observation that you know, the last WRC, you know, in Egypt, you know, 2019. I think the satellite industry did a really good job in working with regulators and in preserving our spectrum. So you know, our plan is to continue to work with the rest of industry and protect our spectrum. We're optimistic that we can do that.
Yeah, I would also resonate with Dave. Like, it's important to kind of closely coordinate with the regulators in this aspect. So for us, SES, like we have been kind of closely working with FCC in the US. So we are on track to meet the end 2021 and end 2023 clearing deadlines and realize this 4 billion accelerated relocation payment from FCC. And we have been also kind of working with regulators in the other regions so that our customers are not affected, and wherever like we have a monetization opportunities, we can work on that. But as you said, like, I mean, in terms of the future plans, I would say the millimeter wave, the C-band encroaching to that spectrum, that concerns us more, where we have the future investments in the K-band, etc. Yeah.
One thing I can share with you is that, you know, the implementation of mobility applications on millimeter wave has not been very successful. I'll give you an example. I'm based in Hong Kong, and the mobile operators here, they tested millimeter wave 5G, and they found out that it only has an effective cell edge coverage of 70 meters. So in order to implement 5G in millimeter wave, they would have to increase the number of cell sites by a factor of 100. And in a very urban environment with a lot of buildings, a lot of roads, crossing the city, 1 meter could cost $10,000 to just move cable 1 meter, and that cost is increasing on a yearly basis. And once you get into the building, to get access to the cable ducts to go up the building is also extremely expensive. So it's actually not going to be easy for mobile operators to increase their number of cell sites by a factor of 100, if not impossible. So I would argue that millimeter wave is probably long ways away from being threatened by cell towers versus frequencies in mid-band. I think the C-band frequency would be much more threatened in the near future. So here's another general question. You're out there in the market talking to customers every day. You're talking to enterprises, telcos, and governments. And obviously these multi-billion-dollar LEO projects have hired smart salespeople, smart engineers. They're out there visiting the same customers that you're already serving. What are you hearing from your customers about the proposition that's being promoted by the incoming LEO systems? And is there something interesting that you can share with us? Any threats that you identified?
I think a quick one is just that what we've seen is actually most people are waiting. It's a waiting game to see what's coming. It's not really a big debate, not a big discussion. I don't get a lot of questions. They're asking us, just what do you think? But I think it's more of a people are waiting to see what's going to happen rather than coming up with detailed technical questions. I think it's too early for that.
Okay.
Yeah, from Viasat's standpoint, it's kind of the same. So yes, there are some beta testers that are testing these systems. We don't see the latency being the key driver to move our customers away from us. We pick the customers and we explain them, what kind of services that we have. And, if you're a gamer, we're not the right solution for you. But in the areas where we're serving, we are very successful, and we don't see as a significant trend for now.
I can also
go ahead.
I can also comment maybe on that. I see actually this marketing buzz around it is good for us. It's also, creating more demand on satellite side as an industry. I find it interesting because most of the cases I hear is that when the customer starts to investigate, they realize okay, GEO HTS is not is quite developed in the sense of providing services they need. And of course, that latency thing comes in as a topic all the time. But when they also think of it, most of the cases they say it's sufficient for them. And we believe this type of thing actually enlarges the market, and there's really room for many players. At least personally, I've seen this type of reactions.
A market share is key. So what expectation are you because of latency? Because you can't get the right latency. What percentage is this? 2%, 10% of the marketplace? And we're looking in the future.
Well, most of the volume of traffic is video.
Yeah.
The applications that are latency sensitive are things like gaming and VPN. So it's a
finance. Yep.
Yeah, it's a relatively small percentage. But yeah, there are applications that low latency makes sense, and again, that's why from the Hughes perspective, we think this multi-transport approach makes sense.
Yeah, that's the same vision we share. I mean, clearly the traffic is 95% latency insensitive. So, it's hard to say, but everybody to some extent has a bit of latency sensitive traffic. So for that, having an hybrid system that combines either LEO traffic or terrestrial traffic within the GEO large pipe that delivers a lot of capacity, that what we think it's a successful option.
And also the customer that we are targeting, as I shared a little bit in my presentation, is more like the end user and SOHO market, not like the corporate end. On the VPN side, we don't really see that type. And in these markets, usually there are some applications, yes, but low cost and availability everywhere across the geographies really makes the decision. I think I strongly believe in the like cost and the easy and fast deployment into the rural 100% type. It makes a difference.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Great. So if I could ask just a real quick question to each one of the panelists. I grew up in Las Vegas. I'm not sure if you guys know. So sometimes I like to take gambles and bets and predict the future. So running your geo business, being in the market at the forefront of the technology and customer interactions, and seeing what's happening with the LEO systems and how it impacts your geo business, which LEO system do you think, would you bet, would be successful? Potentially why? And then what worries you the most? What would keep you up at night? So if maybe let's hear from Ken, because he's not been asked any questions. So maybe we could start with him.
Okay, basically, we are working in the ground systems. So we're in the telecom industry, but basically it's most related to that operators and the service that they're providing. I cannot tell which one will succeed, but at the end of the day, they will find a market so they will find a market at the end of the day.
This is a roulette table. You have to pick a number. Okay.
Yeah. Come on, Chem. Let's have some numbers.
Pick your number one. Who's going to be the most successful in LEO? It's okay. No.
Okay, let me tell Starlink. Okay.
Starlink. Okay. Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, let me just make a couple of comments. One is that I think economics wins in the long term, and we stand by GEO having the lowest cost per bit and the lowest terminal. Now, having said that, there's just so much investment going on in LEOs, and it's not just SpaceX Starlink, but Amazon is coming. So I think, notwithstanding that GEO is the best economic proposition, I think there's going to be some disruption to the market in the short term until things shake out. But I would be reluctant to make a bet.
So maybe first big LEO into the marketplace is the one, is because it all goes by market share and profitability. And I mean, Starlink is going to be there, there's no doubt. But I then see that our friend Mr. Musk is going to try and sell off Starlink as a separate IPO.
Yeah, there's more than one way to make money, right? In business, you can make money through profits or through shares or Bitcoin.
Or Bitcoin, yeah, let's have a Bitcoin.
Stefano?
Yeah, I think kind of share the vision of Dave in the sense that, you know, both our companies are run through the same metrics. So we have to be profitable. And we think that the geo service and the geo capacity is the one that will keep our metrics healthy and growing. Now, you know, both Bezos and Musk know what they're doing. They've been very successful in many different ventures, and they have the capabilities to raise capital that probably nobody else in the industry has. So, you know, it's hard to predict which one of the two, but there is a chance that there will be at least one large constellation operating and providing service, and we can perfectly live with them. So, and eventually even partner with them.
Great. Ahmet?
Yeah, I actually think currently we only have Starlink has started the service across US, and maybe a little bit in Europe also people started to buy, you know. But we believe there is more operators can accommodate, Europe can accommodate more operators. Of course, economics for the end users and for the market they are targeting should make sense. For the geo part, Dave, Stefano, they all said, and we believe the same. At the moment, geo delivers much more value to the targeted markets that we are targeting. And for that purpose, we believe the geo is there. But LEO, yes, there is space for particularly where they are addressing. There might be space, but that's important for the economics. And I mean, we can live with them. And they, as I said, they can grow some satellite, let's say, market in general also. We believe in it.
Great. Tipu?
Yeah, so like, I mean,
There are not enough gamblers in this audience. Or in this
No,
Yeah,
but you also have to be a believer.
yeah, as a competition intelligence guy, like I closely keep track of what is happening. Like, I mean, so when we analyze, like, we see that if you take the constellations one by one, none of them is going to be competing in all the target segments where we are competing. Like, I mean, Starlink is having a focus on the consumer broadband, and the government OneWeb is having their own limitations in terms of the throughput per beam and the steerability and all those things, flexibility. And Telesat is down the line, and Amazon, like, I mean, Kuiper, even though it's a little bit later, we see them as a competition because of the deep pockets of the company, and also their ability to kind of meet their supply with the in-house demand in all the Amazon verticals. So that could be a challenge. But collectively, even though we don't see each of them as a kind of competing in all the segments, we see the competition is collectively increasing. Like, that is happening in the market. So what we are trying to do is, like, we are trying to kind of compete with our right to wins in the markets where it matters, like providing ultra high throughputs for the fixed data applications and high return flexibility in the ISR market. And also, yeah, that's my take. Again, I'm sorry, I cannot pick one out of all this. Yeah. But again, going back to the previous question, like, we also see them approaching some of our customers. In fact, that is also kind of, we are hearing from the customers, but we don't see kind of, like, I mean, single digit pricing or something that is being offered. So that is also kind of a thing to see, like, I mean, how, and the go to market will also be kind of different. For example, Telesat may be doing the go to market in a more traditional way, but Starlink may be kind of going all the way downstream. So that also, the market access and the go to market will also kind of determine the success in the market, because a lot of these services require a market access and in-country presence and end-to-end service experience. So yeah.
Hey, Deepu, you're saying there that about LEO people, sales guys, talking to your customers, what is some nitty gritty feedback that comes back from them? Are they still pro SES? Your customer still pro SES?
Yeah, in fact, because we are currently only the non-geo operating broadband constellations that is providing service, and that makes a big difference. Like, I mean, you have something in hand which is operating, which is providing the SLAs and the connectivity. So the customers are happy with that, but they are also giving feedback. Like, I mean, this is the kind of offers we get, and we expect this. So there is also a kind of a waiting game for some of these customers. So yeah, but I would say that the customers are still pro SES. Yeah.
Good.
Svante?
Yeah, so if I put one bet on one, then that would be Starlink, because we just talked about him being Elon Musk being a one-man marketing machine, and we got a good track record, not based on technology, who's the best. So that's where I put my money. If I sleep during the night with Leos in the background, yes, I do. I think that hybrid solutions is something that we want to work with. So there's always a good combination of the EOS, LEOs, and MEOs, and there will always be segments where you can address, those segments with several solutions, not just one. I think that no one's just going to go with one in the future. So hybrid is the future, and therefore we can sleep. We just need to decide, is it going to partnership, ownership, or a combination?
Great, thank you. So when I'm looking for a partner to go to Vegas to play blackjack, I know who to call.
Yeah.
So, well, because I asked the question, I think I'm going to make a bold prediction. So I think the LEO's constellations that are going after the telecom market, the consumer broadband market, the 3 billion unconnected people market, I think they're going to fail because of the reasons that I mentioned. And that's why I think geo satellites, for all the reasons that all of your excellent presentations mentioned, will continue. I think in order for a LEO constellation to be able to feed the CapEx machine to keep it going, they'll have to create a new killer application that doesn't exist at GEO.
Differentiation.
And I feel the company with the background with the most knowledge of the internet, most knowledge of consumers, one of the most profitable companies in the world, I think that's Amazon. And I think they're not announcing what their application is. They're not telling us what their pricing is because they're planning to use that LEO constellation for the next killer app, which they're keeping in, they're hiding that from us. So I feel if I took a big bet, I'd bet on Kuiper. So for better or worse, that's where my money's on.
Very speculative, but you may be right.
Okay, Barry, I think.
Dude, have you got a customer question, an audience question there that is interesting?
Yeah, take a quick look. I think one of several of the questions and comments were related to latency. Geo satellites will still have problems with providing latency, especially some of the conversations that I've had in the market is that especially like cruise ships have tried to move all their applications to the cloud, but those cloud applications are not able to run over geo delay. So they're looking for other solutions to run cloud computing, not cloud computing, but like web applications. So there must, and the cloud computing business is exploding right now. I think it's almost $1 trillion business. I think it was about 700 billion last year. So, so it's far bigger. Most I would say more than 70% of U.S. enterprises are on the cloud. All their apps are on the cloud. Even universities are doing their computing through the cloud. So that is affected by demand. That will affect corporate enterprise market segments. So would somebody be willing to take that on?
Yeah, in fact, like SES we are also placing our bet on the cloud market, and we are going with our partner Microsoft. So we are enabling the high SLA cloud connectivity, the Azure, for the Microsoft Azure to areas where there is not enough connectivity. So we are using the super reach capability of the satellite to extend the connectivity to the enterprises and all. And Tom, as you rightly said, like the biggest opportunity is coming from the cloud adoption of the enterprises and as well as the government. So, you know, the 10 billion JEDI contract that is the US government is having contracted to put all their systems to the cloud. So I would say we are kind of placing our bet on the cloud market for our future revenue growth.
Great. Yeah, before I hand it over to Barry, I wanted to thank all the panelists. You know, typically I'm a speaker in one of these panels, and they're really, you know, they're typically really boring, but today it was very fascinating. I learned a lot. Everybody was great, excellent information, you know, open, transparent sharing. I thought we had a very good rapport, good dialogue, good, you know, a friendly atmosphere. So I'd like to really, you know, thank every one of you for such a great contribution. And Barry, thank you for inviting me to host this thing.
Okay. All right.
Doing a panel, but I did not know how it was going to go, but I really enjoyed myself today. Thank you.
Brilliant. That's good. It's nice of you to comment like that. So just some closing remarks then. So brilliant, friendly, and instructive. Well, I will conclude that we had a very good and very exciting first session, 5-year Satcom vision concerning mostly geo satellite aspects. Firstly, our audience trust you have enjoyed your time here. The time spent is beneficial and learned something more about our business. And now I'm going to repeat what Tom has just said. Next, thanks to our hardworking presenters and the moderator. So Cem at Profen, Svante at Intelsat, Ahmed at Eutelsat, Deepu at SES, Stefano at Viasat, and Dave at Hughes, and our moderator, Tom Choi, for their valued presentations. Next, my equal and other thanks go out to the organisation. And this is Profen Engineering for their initiation and support for this Satcom Vision Conference. And particularly to Daphne, Leo and Sadetin back at the ranch in Ankara. In summary, there were many highlights indicating that there is a long life in Arthur C. Clarke's original 1945 presentation, which postulated the geostationary arc, that moment Satcom was born. This was an epoch for the dawn of a modern world. The audience, overall, geo is healthy from what I determine is and remains increasingly so. Also, geo as functioning network is sustainable and becoming more competitive. And that's what the market wants, the telecom market wants. What we have shown you is a geo future map perspective from 5 major space segment providers, each offering global coverage. All are impressive. Indeed, in the future, all networks are predicted to become more efficient, more competitive to satisfy an increasing demand for capacity. Customer opportunities prevail. In fact, my summary should also be addressed to Arthur C. Clarke himself for his thoughts. If he were present, informing him his creation is fully operational, doing well, experienced customer demand and business growth, as we have seen and heard from our panelists today. Although the market has deviated slightly during the last couple of years, the future is bright. Of course, my school report is good. It is to do with market share and profitability. Geo, HTS and VHTS applications are predicted to be a great success, perhaps compared with the LEO-MEO constellation offerings to commercial and government customers alike. No doubt 5G will drive demand. We shall experience increased broadband high speed. Aero IFC in fruition will come alive once COVID abates. No worries, guys. Satellite backhaul, 3G, 4G, extending to 5G in the distant future, advantageously via HTS and VHTS transmissions, the latter with QV band. So I'm just mentioning QV band in there. The growth of enterprise and large corporations, increased capacity for secure government and defense applications, and we like that quantum satellite system from Eutelsat. AI, artificial intelligence, robotics advance, and analytics prosper. Market forecasts, so we've seen those, and I mean, it looks good for the years 2021, well, beyond that, to 2021 to 28 by roughly 10 to 14% CAGR. Others to come. War of the Worlds scenario. Geo versus LEO on competitive sides, or is it a damp squib? Proliferation of small sat applications, as advanced by Tom. 5G connection direct to satellite. 3 organizations propounding that. Cloud computing is here. Software-defined networks, a game changer, affecting geo virtualization, allows for scalability, extendability, and a new breed of flexible satellites, and use for path selection in geo-LEO terrestrial domain. Overall, predicted global telecom and cloud market growth from 2.4 trillion, that's 10, I think that's 10 to the power 12, in 2021 to 2025 is to $5.8 trillion. An explosion, another epoch. Whilst the addressable terminal suppliers ground segment is a mere 2.9 billion per annum, Satcom providers is a whopping 124 billion. Furthermore, it is noted equipment costs are decreasing year on year. New unknown applications, new customers, and matching supply with demand. Finally, comment about LEO-MEO. Moving on, the LEO-MEO digitized world, it is early days. Their struggle is just starting, but we shall hear more about their aspirations in next month's Satcom Vision Session Part 2, which is scheduled for Thursday, the 18th of March. So Thursday, the 18th of March, guys. For LEO-MEO, there is no doubting the big boys, the big time financing is available for majority players. Ultimately, long-term monetary success may elude a few, but another story to unfold. So if you found today interesting, the LEO-MEO Constellation Digest next month will offer a compelling contrast to our geospace segment story today. And for the predicted downstream Satcom epoch happening, it is well characterized by Charles Dickens, So I've borrowed something from him, the Victorian author, entitled "It is Great Expectations," maybe on behalf of the Leo Mio camp. Let's hear. Tune in. Finally, my takeaway is our future is not cancelled because of COVID. Our innovative life continues regardless, remains positive. And finally, Satcom RF engineers and IT savvy people have a job for life if they so desire. So till next month, guys, I'm going to sign off here. Take care.
Thank you.
Harry.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, Tom.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.